Okay, this is the video tutorial for test 1.1 on equations. I'm starting at slide 9. If you do want to go back and look at the Amplify lesson, at the beginning, you will see a reminder of some vocabulary words. We will get to those also in the review itself. So the two things for test 1.1 is we have to solve a linear equation in one variable, and we also have to identify when something has no solutions or infinite solutions. And that was what we did in our class today. Basically, we did the review, which you're going to see now, take the test, and then the extra time, work on missing assignments or some extension work ready for the next test. So this first test has 8 questions on it. And our first equation is this. If 30 minus 3 parentheses x minus 1 equals 48, what is the value of x? So we're solving for x, essentially. So the important part about this is we notice there's parentheses here. So through PEMDAS, we want to make sure we get rid of the parentheses first. So when we do that, we want to make sure that this is multiplication. As these two things are next to each other here, we're going to multiply. So we do negative 3 times x, and we also do negative 3 times negative 1. Now, anything with negative numbers, I would definitely recommend that you use your calculator just to make sure. And if I go full screen here, we can probably see that better. There we go. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Negative 3 times x is just negative 3x. And I'm actually going to advance to my next slide so you can see that easier. There's negative 3x. There's my positive 3. Now, the reason I put boxes around these two terms is if we look on the left-hand side now, we have two numbers. There's something we can just combine. We can just work that out. 30 plus 3 is 33. Don't have to do the opposite. We're going to do opposites if you want to move something from one side of the equal sign to the other side of the equal sign. And then from here, we're just trying to solve from x. So we're just trying to get negative 3x by itself. So I'd move 33 to the other side by subtracting 33. And then also subtracting 33 on this side as well. And if I move on to slide 15, you can see that even clearer. There you go. So that cancels. 33 take away 33 is 0. That's why we do the opposite. I get left with negative 3x. 48 take away 33 is 15. And then on the last step, instead of timesing by negative 3, I want to divide by negative 3. As they're next to each other, I know this is a multiplication. Don't get suckered into thinking this is a subtract 3 and then you add 3. So the opposite of timesing by negative 3 is to divide by negative 3. And 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. I would recommend, once again, use your calculator just to make sure. Question 2. So this is our proportion question. We got fraction equals fraction. And this is where we want to use that thing called the butterfly method. So the butterfly method tells us which two things are we going to times together. Now, the reason we're timesing them is the opposite of dividing by 2 is to times by 2. So if I was to physically write this out here, I would be cancelling this. And to show that I want to multiply all of this by 2, I would put parentheses around it. So that's why we're actually doing a multiplication with these terms. Some people call it cross multiplication as well. And you pick a loop. Doesn't matter which loop you start with. When you're picking which way to write the two terms, though, I would put the number first and then the ones with two terms separately in parentheses. So me personally, I picked this loop first. So I did 7 times x plus 4. Didn't work it out, just wrote it down. Same for this. 2 times x plus 9. Same thing, I just wrote it down. Distribute 7 times x, 7 times 4. Use your calculator if necessary. 2 times x, 2 times 9. And then from here, I'm just trying to bring my x's to one side and my numbers to the other side. So I can subtract 2x from both sides because 2x take away 2x is 0. 7 take away 2x is 5x. Bring down to plus 28. Positive 18 is just 18, so I don't need the positive. You can put positive 18, that's fine. And then instead of adding 28, I'm going to subtract 28 because 28 take away 28 is 0, so that cancels. 18 take away 28 is negative 10. And then final step, instead of timesing by 5, divide by 5. And negative 5 divided by 10 is negative 2. And question 3 talks about no solution and infinite solution. So we're kind of going to do both at the same time, really. So as I'm looking for these questions, the no solution and infinite solution, what's special about them is that the number of x's in the question is the same. So as I'm looking at answer A, just for a second, I can see I got 9x and I got 3x. As they're not the same x, I know this isn't no solution or infinite solution, and I don't know what the answer is until I work it out. But it's not no solution, so I'm going to ignore that question. Now, as I look at this question, these do have the same number of x's, 8x and 8x. So for the numbers, I would ask myself, does 3 equal 3? Now, as the answer is yes to that, as 3 is the same as 3, I'm not going to pick an answer that has no in it. Therefore, it's the other special case, which is infinite solutions. People often prefer to remember infinite solutions as being exactly the same. So 8x, 8x, 3, and 3. So this one's actually going to be the answer to the next question, which says which one is infinite solutions. C, we can quickly eliminate because they do not have the same number of x's. D could be one of either no solution or infinite solution because they both say 6x. This time, look at the numbers. Does 2 equal -3? As the answer to that is no, then I can pick no solution. So no solution has the same number of x's, but different numbers. Infinite solution has the same number of x's, and it also has the same number for the numbers as well. So as we said, B is going to be the one for infinite solutions, just because we've got 8x and 8x, 3 and 3. We try to write it the other way around just to try and confuse us, though. And there's the answer and the explanation if you need to pause at this time. Question 4 is very similar. This is also a very similar type of question. So there's no x's in this question at all. So we're not solving for x at all in this. So I can almost eliminate these answers straight away. Does 2 equal 3? Well, no, it doesn't. So this would actually be a no solution. Now, if you're thinking about hold on, you said the number of x's had to be the same for it to be no solution or infinite solution. It is. How many x's do we have on the left? 0. How many x's do we have on the right? 0. So anything without an x is really one of those special cases as well. You can just look at the numbers. They're not the same, which means it's no solution. But if I look at the next one on 4b, 4 and 4, that's exactly the same. 4 does equal 4, so that would be infinite solutions. And then we come to our word problems. So we've got to be careful with these ones. Really, we just want to pick one, work it out, and see if it actually gives us this answer here. So I know difference does mean subtract, so that's a good start. But it says 4, so we want 4 on the left and then a number squared on the right. So clearly that's not the correct way around, so I'm not going to pick answer A. Now, a lot of people ignore B straight away because they see 4 at the start, but then they don't see 4 here. However, fewer than does mean subtract, but it's also one of our turnaround words. So instead of being 4 at the beginning, 4 is actually at the end of the subtraction, as you can see that it is here as well. A number squared, that is definitely this. So although it looks like it's the wrong way around, fewer than is that turnaround word, which will put it the correct way around. And is 6, that means we found our answer for this one. Just to also show you why C and D are wrong, decreased by is definitely subtract, but it says a number cubed. So this is not a number cubed, this is a number squared. Cubed means it's to the power of 3, therefore that vocabulary word there is wrong. And doubled does mean something to do with 2, but it means you times by 2. So this would mean 2n as opposed to n squared. That's how we can pick out answer B for this question. And there's those other turnaround words to watch out for. Mainly it's the than, more than, less than, fewer than. So even though the question starts with a 2, the answer ends with a 2. And also watch out for subtracted from as well. That's the 4th turnaround word that we might see. Now, not every question is multiple choice on the SOL, and for that reason, not every question on our tests are going to be multiple choice either. So I do see parentheses, and like earlier, P for PEMDAS takes precedent here. So I'm going to distribute this 2 times x, 2 times 27, 6 times x, 6 times 3. And I did that first step on the here. 2x, 54, 6x, and 18. Once we're there, we're just moving x's to one side, numbers to the other side. I personally like to collect my x's on the left, so the opposite of 6x is negative 6x. Do that on both sides, that cancels. 2 take away 6 is negative 4. Bring down those terms, positive 54. Once again, 18, positive 18, same thing. I'm just going to put 18. And then I want to move things away from the negative 4x. So instead of adding 54, I'm going to subtract 54 to give me negative 36. And then the last step, once again, as they're next to each other, it means I'm times them by negative 4. So do the opposite, which is to divide by negative 4. And just make sure you check things like this on your calculator as well. Negative 36 divided by negative 4 is positive 9. And now on a test, you would type this into your answer into the space provided. But without multiple choice, you don't know if your answer is correct necessarily. So it's one of those where you got to trust your method, take your time, and be careful as you're working out your answer. Now, before we get to number 7, I'm actually going to move to question number 8, because question number 8 is the one that we're more familiar with. So we were looking at perimeter. Perimeter is when you add all the sides together on the shape. So we've got to add all these terms together. Now, I do like to put 1 next to x, just to remind us it's 1x and not 0x. And I also like to box my like terms as well, just so I can see what am I focused on when I'm collecting terms. So as I add the x's together, 4 add 2 is 6, add 1 is 7. I can tell it's either C or D right now. If we don't put that there, you might think there's nothing there. So you might think it's 0, do 4 add 2 is 6, which notice is answer A and B here. When we look at our numbers, make sure you look at the signs in front of the numbers as well. If we only look at the numbers, you see 6, 3, and 1. 6 add 3 is 9, add 1 is 10. We would pick this answer. However, this question says that it's 6 add negative 3, add negative 1. And you can see that if you're not sure what that is, you can just use your calculator. It's 2, meaning that it's answer C. You could easily just for this go 6 take away 3 is 2. Take away 1 is 6 take away 3 is 3, sorry, 3 take away 1 is 2, and still end up with that same answer. So perimeter is where we add all the sides together. And now I'm going to come back to 7 because we did also do perimeter for other shapes like this. And some people immediately just wanted to start labeling all their sides. Don't do that for this question. This question is more about reading than any other skill. So it says for this question, the area of a rectangle can be found by multiplying together the length and the width. Well, it doesn't say multiply, it says the dot. They're next to each other. I know that that means you're going to multiply. Which equation could be used to show that this is multiplying? So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to multiply the length, 4x plus 7, by 2. And I got to figure out which one of these is. Well, there's my 4x plus 7 and there's my 2. That's definitely not a multiplication symbol, so I know that that's not correct. Similarly here, this one's also an add, so that's not correct either. That's for people that know to label all 4 sides, and that's actually the answer for perimeter. That's the top side, plus the left side, plus the bottom side, plus the right side together. So perimeter, they will often put in area answers, and on area questions, they'll often put in perimeter answers. The line on the fraction I know means divide, so it's not that one either. And for this reason, it's this. I'm going to multiply these two together. They just flip the order because we prefer to do numbers first and then the binomial second. So 2 times 4x, 2 times 7. And that's actually as far as you need to go in this question. Sometimes they will ask you to multiply it out. 8x plus 14 equals 30. Sometimes they might ask you to solve that equation as well. As we already have 6 questions prior to this that involve a lot of solving, we decided just to go for the setup of the question at this part, and that might be how it would work on the SOL as well. Just a reminder, perimeter is when you add the sides together. Area is when you multiply the sides, but for area questions, they will give you a formula, or it is on your formula sheet so you can find out. That's the end of the test review. Just a reminder, our tests on review are very similar to each other. So if there's a question you don't understand, make sure you ask about it, because otherwise you're going to see a very similar question when you do your test, okay? Don't try and remember like the answer to question 1 is C or the answer to question 1 is 10. That's not what it's going to be on your test, but it's the procedures involved that's the important thing as you're doing those questions.